Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's event. My name is Professor Anurima Banerjee and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's public talk with the renowned choreographer and dancer, Bijayini Satpathy. She is considered the foremost exponent of Odissi, which is recognized as one of the 8 national classical dance forms of India. Renowned the world over for her grace, Satpathy embodies the spirit of Indian dance in a way few others have achieved. She's known for her path-breaking transformations of what is called classical technique through innovations in Odissi's dance vocabulary as well as composition. And over the past 20 years, she has researched and expanded the movement potentials of Odissi to develop her signature style, marked by the juxtaposition of delicate gestures and chiseled shapes, velocity and stillness, vigor and grace. With her continuing inquiries into Odissi, Satpathy has created a set of textured, original works that resonate with diverse audiences. Her luminous performances have earned her international praise. She's been hailed by the New Yorker magazine and New York Times for her exquisite command over her craft, and by the press across the world for her unparalleled artistic expression. Recent honors include serving as artist in residence with the Metropolitan Museum of Art for the 2021-22 season. In 2020, she was the New York Dance and Performance Bessie Award honoree, and her solo choreographic debut in the US, Kalpana, The World of Imagination, was named the best solo dance performance in 2019 by Dance Magazine. In 2021, she premiered her evening-length solo work, Abhipsa, A Seeking. Commissioned by Duke University and the Baryshnikov Art Center, the piece is currently touring around the world into spring of next year. Satpathy's interest in Odissi was instilled at age 7 with teachers at Odisha Dance Academy in her birthplace of Bhubaneswar, Odisha, India. She's one of the most recognizable names in Indian dance today, largely part to her 25-year career with the famed Nrityagram Dance Ensemble, where she worked from 1993 to 2018, discovered by Nrityagram's founder, Srimati Pratima Gauri, and working in close partnership with the company's artistic director, Shurupa Singh. Satpathy's deep understanding of integrated physical conditioning for Odissi dance, combined with her knowledge of yoga, Kalaripayattu, Western movement techniques, anatomy and kinesiology, as well as the aesthetic philosophy of the performance treatise, the Natya Shastra, and other related works, led to her appointment as Nrityagram's Director of Training and Outreach. For 20 years, she held this position, raising the international profile of the company's school through the development of a unique training system for Odissi. Cultural organizations and educational institutions regularly engage her as a speaker and scholar for her command of the broader religious, historical, and cultural elements of the Odissi tradition. We last had the honor of hosting Satpathy in 2015 when she was with us as a Regents lecturer in the department, and we're thrilled that she's joining us again this week for an artistic residency. So please join me in welcoming Bijayini Satpathy.
Thank you. Namaskar and welcome. I'm very nervous. Speaking to scholars is, I'd rather dance. But to arrive at my dancing, which involves my choreography, and I'm a new choreographer. I haven't choreographed in my 40 plus years of dancing until 2020. But to land there, to begin telling my story through the choreography, my choreographies, and my personal connection with Odissi, I must also contextualize what I inherited, my inheritance of Odissi. And that's where I will begin with a little brief but broad picture. It's very nuanced. The culture is very old, it's very nuanced, There are a lot of problematic areas. We must acknowledge all of them before we enter, but it's broad picture of how Odissi came about when I received it. Yeah. So let's go into the first slide. Yeah, we have Odissi is one of the 8 classical dance forms of India, and we have the 8 classical dance forms emerging from 7 different states. Each one has a unique pedagogy, a unique appearance, unique language, spoken language and text that is used in that, movement vocabulary, based out of the ethos of the region they represent. So let's quickly go through the slides we have here. From Kerala, Mohiniyattam and Kathakali, you saw that first. Satriya coming from Assam, next. From Manipur, Manipuri dance, I have just kind of placed the graceful, femininely graceful form and then the masculine form. Kathak dance from Uttar Pradesh, North India. Next, Kuchipudi from Andhra Pradesh. Bharatanatyam from the southern state of Tamil Nadu, primarily, but also belongs to Karnataka. And then Odissi from the region of Orissa. The history of dance in the land of larger Orissa, not the shape of Orissa, geographical shape of Orissa that we see now, but larger Orissa, goes to the next slide, please, where in 2nd or 3rd century BC, during the Jain religious practice and Jain ruling in Orissa, we see cave carvings, caves of the monks, Jain monks. There we see carving of dance, and as you can see, there's some kind of procession in which there is a dancing figure. Then we miss many centuries till we land into the next slide, where between this is the cave, and then we land next into between 7th to 13th century AD. We have a profusion of dance figures on the walls of temples, and a lot of dance elements, physical elements today are borrowed from those images. So we'll just quickly go through a few slides where we'll show you the temple, and if we can stop here, this is Konark Sun Temple, which is known for a lot of reliefs carved on the stone of dancing figures. In a way, the way I think of it is that we can go forward a little bit. Yes, we can stop here. So the temple walls, the postures, the reliefs of dance that we see on temples are in 3 categories. I see them in 3 categories. One is dancing postures, more of women, and majorly of women and figures, and less of male figures. There are also male and female dancing postures playing musical instruments. That's one category. And then something that is very interesting is almost to me like celebration of woman, the sensuality of the feminine body, where we have postures, not these, but the temple sculptures, postures that are things like a woman waiting on the doorway, a woman holding the branch of a tree and standing, a woman looking into the mirror and decorating herself with jewelry, braiding the hair, a woman standing with a peacock or a pet bird, a woman stretching in a stretching position, different kinds of seated postures, etc. These are extremely interesting for me because it kind of tells me that it is celebration of the sensuality of the feminine body, and a lot of it informs the vocabulary of dance when the reconstruction of Odissi dance took place much later. Parallelly, there were other crafts and arts that existed that demonstrate to us that there was dance and dancing of the human body in the mind of artists always. So these are from southern India, but we have similar carvings in wood, stone, and metal in the region of Orissa also. So usually they are dancing gods and goddesses. And next we have, this comes from Orissa, we have storytelling, stories being written, mythological stories about gods and goddesses, demigods, celestial beings, and illustrations are done to describe the stories on palm leaves, and this is the miniature painting that comes from the region of Orissa. As you can see, that nothing is simplistic. It creates dance in the simple, so the human body is perceived, or the actions are perceived in a very stylized visual way, and that's where we begin to see dance. All of these, I feel, inform what Odissi dance has become. We have many embodied traditions that inform what Odissi takes from, but the true primary precursor that are usually talked about in the popular narrative are connected to divinity or sacredness of the dance, or the practice of the dance connected to gods and goddesses and temples. There are many reasons for why they are so, but there have been martial dance, many folk dance traditions that inform the vocabulary of Odissi and what the content and the themes that we present. However, I'll talk about the two sacred traditions. We go to the next slide. The Mahari temple dance tradition, which kind of began and flourished around between 11th and 17th century. In all of Orissa and then below in India, there was the practice of temple dancers in temple who served as the wife harem of the deity, the presiding deity, and their service in the temple was by singing, offering physical offerings, making physical offerings as part of the daily religious worship rituals, by singing and dancing. In Orissa, this tradition was called Mahari, and we will listen to, we'll see an excerpt of a documentary which was created about them, where way past the stopping of this tradition, the practice of this tradition, a Mahari temple dancer demonstrates what they used to dance. So let's go to the video.
Sasi was one of the group of Maharis who took turns dancing in the morning ritual. On her day to perform, she would fast and bathe, then approach the temple, veiled in a special shawl that was tied round her waist when she danced. Inside the temple, the Mahari performed only pure dance, which had no storyline, but was said to embody the quality of Shringara, or love.
The other embodied tradition connected again to divinity, the practice of religion, is Goti Pua tradition. Goti means single, Pua means boy. Young boys under the age of puberty were trained to dance and sing, and I think because of their young body's capacity, they were made to dance gymnastic, acrobatic movements, and singing the song of a religious cult that was propagating, trying to popularize this in the region of Orissa, called Vaishnava cult. So the cult, they sang and danced, singing praise of Lord Vishnu, advocating his prominence in the world of the pantheon of deities. Let's see the video. This practice continues till today. There are groups of Gotipur dancers that go from temple to temple during festive occasions and perform, and it's considered, again, a sacred thing to promote. In 1958 or 54 was Odissi announced to be the classical dance, the state dance. 58, yes. I was born in 1973. And I started learning dance just short of 7. So 26 years since the classical naming of Odissi dance is when I come to the picture. And I think a lot of, some of the formal training, formal discipline into the training of the body in Odissi style had already been introduced. So what I learned is basic body positions. We'll go to the next. As you can see in the dance, we have this basic body position, Samabhanga, the position of equilibrium. Next, creating a tilt in the neck and the waist by the deflection of the torso, but the legs are still kind of semi-straight position. Then we add a turn out, bend of the knee in the next position and create 3 bends in the body. The next slide, please. And then a central weight position called chauka with 4 lines in the arms and 4 lines in the legs. The next slide. What I learned is 10 basic units of movements in the 3 bend position and the 4 line position of chauka. I learned few ways of walking across space and turning, Brahmaris and Charis, and hand gestures, single hand gesture and conjunctive hand gestures. I learned head positions and movements, neck positions and movements, eye position and movements, feet positions and movements, taken from texts of 17th century called Abhinaya Darpana, where these positions were codified. There were names and also their usage. I learned rhythm, popular rhythms that accompany the Odissi dance, and we learn how to use the science of rhythm and the understanding of dividing time, tempo, and the logic of all of that. And then I went on to learn what was called the traditional repertoire. The traditional repertoire had a dance of invocation in the beginning, and it was called Mangala Charan. Mangala, auspicious, Acharana is rituals. In a way, if you break that piece down, it holds within itself the history of its practice, perhaps in the temples, because there is offering of flowers, there is acknowledgement of the presiding deity of Lord Jagannath, where the dance form as the Devadasi tradition had flourished, and acknowledging deities, Ishtadeva Vandana, acknowledging Bhumi, the earth, and acknowledging the Sabha, the audience, acknowledging the space. So there is directions introduced where we are honoring the deities that guard the directions, and then after that the dance begins. So Mangalacharan, dance of invocation, followed by a non-narrative dance called Pattu, which celebrates the technique technique of Odissi, and I think that's where it retains the history of reconstruction or newly building of Odissi dance, because there has been such a long gap between lots of lost memory of the body that I feel like the reconstruction was perhaps majorly construction again of the Odissi language by looking at what was existing on the temple walls. So there is a celebration of the temple sculptures in that second dance. In the third dance, the technique is then taken in essence as it responds to melodic nuances. There we honor the music that is married to the dance, where the music is the music that comes from Orissa region, recognized as Odissi music, the state music, informed by the North Indian style of Hindustani music and also the Southern Indian style of Carnatic music, but it has its unique flavor, informed by a lot of local traditional system of singing. Then comes the very unique aspect of Indian classical dance, which is storytelling, poetic storytelling. And that's Abhinaya, where we tell stories emoting through the entire body, gestures and facial expressions. And the language of that comes to us from the texts of Abhinaya Darpana, of Natya Shastra. And finally, a dance of liberation. And that happens, you're naturally exhausted by the end of the performance. And so from exhaustion comes exaltation and then liberation, where I find, we can talk more about it, where I find that it's telling us something about the internal journey that the repertoire is guiding us to. It starts with acknowledging deities and the ritualistic past of the dance. It celebrates the technique, it celebrates, acknowledges the music, it makes an internal journey, expresses emotions and says there is beyond it all, physical, intellectual, and then what happens when there is exhaustion. And I enter the performance. I performed others' choreography, Guru Kelucharan Mahapatra, one of the large architects of Odissi reconstructed form, for many years when I was learning and performing in Orissa. Then I came to Bangalore, Nrityagram, where I performed the artistic director Shurupa Sen's choreography for a long time. As I researched the vocabulary, this is where my critical engagement with the form began. I started questioning with curiosity as to why this and why that. And I was training dancers who were spending 10 hours every day dancing. So my information that I had received, it finished. It was exhausted very soon when you practice every day for so many hours. So the question was, now how do we go with less experienced dancing body to performing repertoire? They can technically perform, but are they ready? What is missing? Then looking at the traditional repertoire and questioning what doesn't exist in the basic vocabulary. From this, I started my investigation and developed a very expanded training vocabulary. And as I did that, I taught that, I applied that to the bodies in training. And the body's capacity grew, expanded, and that informed the choreography of the choreographer. So it was a give and take that was taking place, and that's how Nrityagram is understood or seen as having a certain discipline of practice and training. In 2019, I separated to pursue a solo career. And now I look at Odissi through different lens. From the outside, and that is why I'm touring now Abhipsa, and Abhipsa was my first work, which translates literally to seeking. And it is literally, what do I seek to say through Odissi after having engaged with it for so long? I will go into performing. We can take a slide out now. The first dance is called Vigraha. I will leave it to you to decide. I have told you about the traditional repertoire. I did not want to create an alternative repertoire for myself. I didn't want to create a parallel journey consciously, but there is something there that kind of speaks to how the structuring of the inner journey happens in the traditional repertoire, but I will leave it to discussion afterwards. The first dance is Vigraha. Vigraha literally means icon, iconography. Very much how the dance form was born. I know we are constantly looking at the gods and goddesses. For us, they are symbols. I understand them as symbols. I'm not a religious person, agnostic maybe at a stretch. But I become a character that is devoted to deities when I'm talking about dance, when I'm dancing in the dance realm. And so I was trying to find a way to show my reverence for this, the deities that I do not religiously believe in. The form that I celebrate here is Ardhanarishwara Shiva in the form of half male and half female. I will tell you a little cultural thing that happens in India. Young girls before they are married are asked to do worship of Lord Shiva in order to find a good match. And so they do Shiva Puja every day. So this is where I enter the body, the identity of a young girl poised to be married, wishing for a husband who encounters every day Lord Shiva, who is the symbol of female and male reproductive organs together. That's the symbol of Lord Shiva, plus his form in every Shiva temple. Outside you see him in half man and half woman form. So I am entering the story through that lens so that I can make a personal connection with it, because that's how I understand, or that's where my curiosity is as to what do they see and why is it that the young girl who is poised to be married doesn't have the experience of the union of man and woman. Then why are they advised to do Shiva Puja culturally? So that's the context of Vigraha. I will perform the very beginning of it. She has her ritual bath in the river. She enters the temple. On the way, she plucks flowers. A young girl plucks flowers for worship and also decorates herself. She enters the temple, into the temple sanctum sanctorum, and then the song begins. It's very, for me, building the prelude, the pretext to enter the text is where I find my into the story. Whether it is devotional or not, I believe that. So yeah, the first dance, please. First music. The next dance was my desire to dance to a music that doesn't belong to Odissi tradition. Odissi dance is usually danced to Odissi music. I have watched a lot of other dance forms in Bharatanatyam performances, The last dance is done to what's called Tilana, and the music is Tilana, which comes from Carnatic tradition. So, while watching a Bharatanatyam performance, the dance that would make me want to dance is Tilana. So I wanted to see how my Odissi body responds to a Tilana. However, again, I felt like if I have to come to dance a Tilana, I must first acknowledge what is Odissi in my body. So in a way, this dance has a prelude before Tilana begins. So today the excerpt I have chosen is not the Tilana, but the prelude to the Tilana, which is long. And in that, I'm celebrating the idea of sculpturesqueness in the form, what it does to the spine, and the simple technique that is so beautiful in terms of the expansion of imagination and the celebration of human body sensuality, because Odissi is danced equally by male and female dancers now. So you will see very simple postures, almost simple postures, just chauka. How from chauka, the center position, you go to Tribhangi. What happens, the slight delineations of limbs, the paradoxical opposite movements of the limbs that shapes what finally becomes Odissi. And then it builds to the intricacies in the prelude also, leading us to the Tilana. So just the prelude of what I call Vibhanga. Vibhanga means broken parts. So it's unpacking the beauty of Odissi into little broken parts and then bringing them together to dance the Tilana. So the prelude, Vibhanga. Next please. next dance is called Virahi, the one in separation. This production was created during the global isolation of the pandemic. I was, for the first time, away from community practice to practice by myself, by choice, but also we landed into the pandemic, so it lingered, the isolation. Also, I love the idea of love and seeking in separation, which is something that is very inherent and central to Odissi because of the song, 24 songs that were made mandatory for singing and dancing by the temple dancers. It's Jayadeva's Geet Govind. There are 24 songs out of that. 2 songs are of union, Krishna and Radha, the 2 female and male and female demigods who are lovers, are in union. And in 22 songs, 2 songs they're together and 22 songs are in separation, painful separation away from each other. I'm not sure if you will agree that there is a certain beauty to experiencing love in separation. And I have talked about it earlier, so I thought if I'm going to do an emotional dance, then that's what I want to explore. In this love ballad, a lot of songs are Krishna's songs, Krishna's narrative, he speaks. Some songs are Radha's, but more songs are of the Sakhi, the messenger that is in between, taking messages, love-lorn messages of please, please come back to me. She is suffering like this, he's suffering like this, by her. And my wonder and curiosity was about her emotional state when she carries these messages between the 2 lovers, where we are given to understand that Krishna played a love leela with all women of that village. Perhaps she was one of the lovers too, who danced with Krishna and carries secret desires, I don't know. So this is where I bring myself, my curiosity into this song of Krishna sending a painful plea to Radha through the Sakhi. In the beginning, it's Krishna suffering. So I won't go to the song, it's pretext again, how I enter into her arriving with the message to her friend Radha. So it's Krishna and the Sakhi until she lands at Radha's door. Virahi, the 3rd song.
सखे सिदती तव विरहे वनमाली सखे.
It so happens that I love the idea of the formless. So I love the Kabir songs, Nirgun, the one without form. And I have engaged with this poetry for a long time. And I found a song which talks about the final dance, the final joyous, most exalting kind of dance that takes place when the soul breaks free from the form, from the body. And the lines say, ज्ञान के ढोल बजाए रैन दिन ज्ञान wisdom, the wisdom that death is the only truth and it frees finally everyone's soul from the form, from the body with which we identify, and so much happens with it. That it's being drummed into our ears. We see leaves fall, it's the time of fall. We see death, we see perishing everything, we see impermanence of everything around us. So it's being drummed into our ears again and again, but just the idea of drumming, ज्ञान के ढोल बजाए रैन दिन, day and night we see this phenomena of impermanence of everything, which leads finally in the poetry to when the soul, like a bird, breaks free from its cage. In a way, I think of it also in a very metaphorical way, in the realm of breaking free from the form in some ways, but also just finding exhaustion for liberation. And I think the poetry says it all. But to begin, I believe Kabir saying it, Kabir, a mad saint, roaming around in the streets with soiled clothes and I don't know, dirty clothes, and singing and dancing with it. So that's the identity I take when I dance this song, not as me. I am none of these songs. Bijayini is so boring. So I try to have other identities possess my identity to be able to tell the stories as I think I want to say. So it's called Vimukti, the final release. And I will show you the first 3.5 minutes of this dance, which is about how the saint is drumming in this madness. And it kind of gives you the sense of the joy figure that it talks about when this dance happens, to bring attention to death, actually. Something so dark, something we're so scared of, is this most enjoyable moment. So Vimukti, just the beginning of it.
तरी गिडा तगझं तज्झं तरिगिड तगझं झं तझं 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 तज्झं झं तझं 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 तज्झं तरिगिड तगझं तरिगिड तगझं तज्झं तरिगिड तगझं ज्ञान के ढोल बजाए रैन दिन रैन दिन रैन ज्ञान के ढोल बजाए रैन दिन रैन दिन रैन नाच रे मेरो मन नट होय नाच रे मेरो मन नट होय ज्ञान के ढोल बजाए रैन दिन रैन दिन रैन राहु के तू नवग्रह नाचे 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 राहु के तू नवग्रह नाचे 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 जंपुर आनंद हो नाच रे मेरो नट होय नाच रे मेरो नट होय नाच रे मेरो नट होय ज्ञान के ढोल बजाए राहु के तू नवग्रह नाचे 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 जंपुर आनंद हो नाच रे मेरो नट होय नाच रे मेरो
Sorry, I think I spoke wrong. I said the song doesn't drum. It's just the drumming, but maybe that's how I think of the piece. So it was a little more than just the drumming. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your exquisite offerings, Bijayini. We just want to thank you again for presenting these excerpts of your new choreography. And if we have questions, this is the time you can ask Bijayini any questions.
I think I'll stand.
Okay. All right. Super.
How many years have you been doing this? Just curious. I came in late, so I don't know, but how many years have you been dancing?
I'll be giving away my age. But
which I don't mind. I've been doing it for 43 years. A little more than 43 years. So this that I'm doing is evolving constantly. What I did in the beginning in the Orissa, what I did as they were investigating more about Odissi, and then when I came to the Southern Residential Dance School, where what happened there, and then to what I'm doing now. It all isn't part of that practice, but it's evolving.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the mesmerizing presentation. I have a question about how you use space. You very distinctly use space or think about space, and if you could comment on that. And also you've performed at so many different kinds of space. So does the dance evolve or answer or respond to these kind of spaces is something that I'm curious about. Thank you.
Over the years, I realized that I like dancing in bigger spaces. And that takes me to fitting in my imagination formally and internally. It's much larger than me. I'm a midget. So let's face it, I don't need much space to move, but I imagine and project, not to make it impactful, but that's my personal experience of when I dance. So my imagination of the chauka is very restricted. The form is here. But what I feel with it has to reach more space and is expansive. A diagonal shape is more than, I can't expand it, even physically, because it has to have the bends in the joints. But I feel the connection with the extreme and beyond visibly. Internally, the expansion of the character is something like when you talk about Ravan appearing, the words say that the three worlds shivered in his presence. How do you embody that? Right? So it needs to expand. And for me, it feels like if I can see more space, which means bigger the space, is better for me. And yes, then the challenge is you can't just feel unless you occupy also space choreographically. And to do that, the conditioning technique that I follow helps, because the muscles and joints have to move to support that. Yes. Oh, here you go. Could you pass it?
Yeah, speaking on that, what is your conditioning week? What do you do with the conditioning?
What I was passed on is a set of conditioning when I learned as a child, set of conditioning called soundless and sound. Soundless meant a lot of pliés, squatting, stretching. It developed the legs mostly. And also gave us a sense of separating the upper body from the legs, which happens in the technique of dance. The sound exercises were different kinds of jumps, so cardio. But I realized soon that we need more conditioning than just that. In Nrityagram school, we were given training in yoga, different schools of yoga, Kalaripayattu martial art, Aikido martial art, Pilates, basics, bar, basics of ballet. Then I studied the Natya Shastra, trying to look back to see how far can I go, to look for evidence of movement, knowledge of movement. The study of Natya Shastra defines clearly what they call Vyayama or exercise. Exercise is isolated conditioning of the different parts of the body and also bringing together hip to toe in so many different ways, the variations. Then when you look and study the way it's described in a verse, it opens ways for us to explore more within that. So I have created 5 days of conditioning technique that I follow, which take from all of this information and focus on a certain aspect of conditioning. I feel we need more. We need what gives us control and balance, and also what gives us control and balance in constant movement and stamina.
When you are emoting Krishna, Basaki, or Radha, Are you pulling from personal experience, scenes you have seen in life, and how are you continuously churning that within you to keep that emotion fresh? And this is multiple questions, does that take a toll on you? And do these characters' influences or your influences, your personal experiences, how do you keep that fresh as you perform these pieces over and over again?
So, thank you for that question. I think about it a lot. My personal experiences don't come into the dance. Unless when I was in training in Nrityagram, my teacher Pratima Gauri asked me, when you are upset and you are crying, in fact, she was visiting my room one day and she said, stop, go look at your face in the mirror. See what, whatever contortion that you need for this character in this part. She also asked me to go and watch birds and their head movement to bring it into the dance, because there was a bird in the dance she was teaching me for my debut. Besides that, no, we have the training of the mukhaja, facial. So eyebrows, eyes, eyelids, lips, upper lip, lower lip, chin. We train in breath. We are asked to recognize your breath when you are in different emotions, the 9 different emotions. And we have a technique of practicing them. When you practice them, looking sama is straight, and just feel anger. Hold it. If you hold it, then you will notice your breath to hold that emotion works a certain way. Then you will notice, oh, my eyebrow is doing this, oh, my eyes are doing this. So you recognize the angika, the physical, connected with the sattvika or the feeling, core feeling. And that's what comes into play here. You asked a very interesting question about how do you keep the sense of wonder, newness, freshness, right? Very good question. Because I have been practicing this for 2 years now. And I believe it takes 2 years for a piece to really pickle and mature. So then, and yet, there is a constant effort to stay present in every moment in a state of wonder. Because if that didn't happen, then I don't think I can connect with the audience. I'll be just doing it, taking it for granted, and it becomes again what I'm going to say is debatable, like it becomes a performance. It is a performance, I know, but the way I think is that I'm not performing for you to show you something, but we are all seeing it together, and my body is embodying that experience, but you are with me. So for me to connect as I dance is very important. And if the state of wonder every moment, the presence is not there, it cannot happen, I've seen. So I fear habit. Also, I was told by a very famous painter, Jatin Das, I invited him. I said, won't you come? You are here, we are performing tomorrow. He said, you dancers, you know which smile works. You'll just put on that smile and you will think that audience will love it, and then you'll go home happy. And that has stayed with me. Like, what is it that the audience is actually watching? And is it a formula we resort to, and we do sometimes? So you have to keep breaking the habit. You keep practicing to be in autopilot so that you can go beyond, I can go beyond self, which is body and thinking and the emotion. But how do you do it? So there is a way to just constantly, then I draw from the text where it says, Yato hastas tato drishti, where your hand is, there should be your eye. Yato drishtis tato manaha, where your eye is, means hands and eyes are together, is where your mind should be. Yato mana tato bhava, where your mind is, there will be your emotion. And yato bhava tato rasa, where you have that emotion, then some juice is created, rasa. It doesn't say it for the audience, but some juice is drawn out of that moment. And that intent, mind, being there together in the moment, I'm not just taking it for granted, I can do it 100 times the same way, but am I present is my effort. So that's where I take from the Shastras.
I'm afraid we don't have time for another question, but we do have time to quite simply acknowledge what a privilege it is to share, for you to share your work with us and for us to be here to receive it. I think before we leave, we also want to thank our folks upstairs who have been turning on lights and thank you. To Anurima, who has organized this, and most of all to you, Bijayini. Thank you so much. Let's go for Isaac.
One day.